Hey, real quick before we start the podcast, if you have listened to more than one episode, can you do me a favor and rate and review the show? Now, I'm not big on asking for favors, but we really want to get this podcast listed in the top of all health and fitness podcasts, not just the fitness category. This will take you less than a minute, and if you could do that, that would make us friends forever. And since we refuse all sponsors on the show, this will be my only ask rather than telling you to go check out some supplement or product we don't actually believe in, like every other podcast out there. So please rate and review. Okay, that's it. To the podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Trampus, the appendectomy survivor. What's up, dude? How you doing?
I'm doing good. All things considered, not bad at all.
Trampus and I decided ahead of time, since no one else is here, it's just us. I'd love to know what the listener thinks, like that we just have like this office where people are running around and they're like, he's not here today. We're just going to have to fill in. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
But it's actually a little bit different than that. Well, anyway, this is going to be only when it's me and Trampus. So here we go. It's like our theme song.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I don't even know what that is, but it's for you and I. So I'm all pumped up now. But man, yeah, you survived. Give us an update. How's life? How are things?
I did survive. I've talked about this several times with my wife, and she's a PACU nurse. So she sees surgeries and the results of surgeries all the time. So it was literally nothing new for her other than it was me. But it is absolutely wild to me that as human beings, we have figured out how to do that.
All right.
And then what would be such a 200 years ago to take someone's appendix out would have probably been the most traumatic experience of their life up until that point. Barring they were in like a war or something like that.
How many eggs need to be cracked for the surgery omelet is right. I'm sure we don't want to know about.
And literally, I mean, I got in there, they roll you back, you're asleep, and then the next thing you know, you're waking up. And yeah, don't get me wrong, it is definitely painful. It's not fun the first 3 or 4 days afterwards, but I mean, really, truly, nothing I want to do it again, but like it's not been an awful experience. Now, has it set me back? Probably. I would say I've set back, physically for a minute. I've been walking 1.5 to up to almost 3 miles the other day. So getting some good time in, but
300 calories.
That was so the almost 3 mile walk was like 400 calories.
Yeah, perfect. So you get your training in.
So I don't think I'm going to be able to do 303, but I think if Morrissey's doctor's note, which was posted in the Facebook group,
I saw that.
If Morrissey's note stands, I think I can still make 300 sessions. So
I'll count it only because he's here with us. So if it was like some outside doctor who performed the surgery, I'd probably not allow it.
Probably not allow it.
From Dr. Morrissey, anything goes.
Nah. But really overall, I'm doing good now. I mean, I would say I'm 95% back to, and I have a follow-up coming up Monday or today, when this airs. I'll have had a follow-up. So really truly just ready to get back to being a normal person again.
Did they let you keep it? We talked about it.
They would not let me keep it.
Okay.
I did get a picture, which apparently this doctor, and he works with my wife, so he's like, I don't normally do this, but hand me the phone or something, and he took the picture and sent it to her. So I did get a picture of it, and pretty gross looking little organ.
I think most of them outside the body, they just don't seem like they're in a good spot.
I sent it to Morrissey, and I don't remember his exact words, but it was like, yeah, that your appendix is screwed up. It did not look normal.
That's like 5 times the normal size of an appendix.
I'm glad it's out. I'm glad I'm on the road to recovery.
I'm glad you're doing well.
So
getting that training in. Well,
updates
for me. few new things. Well, one, the 300 challenge was actually kind of weird for about 2 weeks there. My heart rate monitor just completely died.
Mm.
I didn't even look at how to change the batteries. I'm sure that's the issue. But instead of change the batteries, I ordered a new one, uh, which I don't know. Well, to be honest, I didn't really truly love the one that I had, so it kind of gave me an excuse to do it. But
Which one did you have? Just
it was one of the Garmin ones, but I just didn't like how it for me it would always loosen up. Like that was just a constant
okay.
thing. And I had the one that I had before the Garmin one was a Wahoo ticker,
Yeah.
which are fairly cheap ones on Amazon. I actually like
Mhm.
that one better, so I ordered a new one of those
Hmm.
because they stay pretty tight and I like it a little bit better. But anyway, I've been having to do for about 2 weeks because I was going out of town for a week, so I didn't order the heart rate monitor before I left. I was like, I'll just wait. So I've been doing wrist heart rate only for tracking, right? And I think we all know like Garmin is notorious for being it's a great watch. They have a great system, but their
Yeah.
their wrist heart rate tracking is maybe the worst I've ever seen.
It's
And
wild.
the last 2 weeks, like, confirmed it. It's for some reason, some activities, when you're running outside with GPS, it seems to be fine. But anything in the garage, it barely knows what you're doing. So, because I did like a ridiculously hard workout. I mean, if I had to estimate, having done a lot of caloric tracking over the years, I was like, this has got to be at least a 600, 700 calorie workout. And it was like, you're at 293. And I'm like, I guess I'll just go until this thing says 300. But it
Yeah.
was way off. So that was super annoying. But then there'd be other times where I like hop on the rower and for some reason it knew that like monotonous activity. And it was like, oh, yeah, we got to 300 real fast. So anyway, that was weird. And I actually also set a new baseline for myself. I think we talked about this, like that 300 threshold can be almost like a cop out at times. Like a now I don't want to like throw shade on the challenge. I'm just saying sometimes you're like, you feel good because you got the 300, but you're like, I
Right.
probably should have done more or whatever. So I set a new 500 calorie minimum threshold. And the main reason I'm doing that is just weather based because when it is hot, I just feel like I burn through 300 calories so fast. And if I let that be my lower level threshold, and because I don't mean I don't like quit workouts when I get to 300, but if I have a day where like I'm busy and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna get in what I can before we do something else, the 300 minimum is not. I'm not digging it, so I increased it to 500 at least while the weather's warm, which will basically be through the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
mean, when I was on hard to kill, like it would, especially now. I mean, it's at 85 to 90 to 95 basically every day, even still here. 500 is not hard to get to. Like
yeah,
it's
that's
just
why
not a
it's the
challenge.
new baseline. It's not like
Yeah.
now 1,000 would be a great. That'd be a crazy baseline.
1,000 would be getting into high intensity every day, probably though.
Yeah, or just long duration something.
Yeah, or
But yeah,
that.
that's been fun. So I did go out of town. I was in Mexico for almost a week recently. Um, Emily's friend was getting married as like a destination wedding or whatever. So we went, and I think I'm getting pretty good at like sticking to the challenge while I'm out of town. And so I'm not gonna. I mean, I'll pat myself on the back. Proud of myself. I
Yeah.
ran on the beach or did calisthenics or whatever I had to do to
Mhm.
get all the training time in and hit all the calories. So it's becoming kind of second nature at this point.
Yeah, I had a fair amount of travel. I've had some with work, but then also we went to the beach, and I think it was in April. It was a cold beach trip, but I just told my wife from the beginning, I was like, "I know this is gonna be a pain, but you're gonna have the kids for at least an hour every day because, I'm committed to doing this." So, got it done. It's
One last update from me.
yeah,
Did I mention last time? Were you on the previous podcast?
I don't think so.
No. I think I mentioned it. I honestly, my brain gets our team meetings confused with our podcasts because they're
Yeah,
very similar.
they
But
are similar.
um, I was learning the Rubik's Cube before I went on vacation. I don't know if I mentioned that on the podcast, but look at this. I
Did it?
am now a Rubik's Cube master. I can solve it in about, I don't know, the quickest I've done it is like 3 or 4 minutes. It averaged maybe 10 minutes now. Not trying to be a speed cuber. Don't lump me in with that, but I can now solve a Rubik's Cube. Took about a week to figure out, and I'm really happy about it.
So did you look up tips, or did you just sit down with it and it took you a week to figure it out? Because
No, I wish I was that cool.
well, see, I figure honestly, I think if I was to do it, and I may do it, I would want to just try to figure it out because I feel like
You won't be able to do it.
you don't think so?
No. And I say that now knowing how to solve it because of how much I had to memorize to
Really?
do it. So, I mean, maybe you could. A lot of people are like, oh, I can get one side or two sides or whatever. But I bought a course. And so it was a $9 course I found on Rubik's Cube because I tried some YouTube videos, but these guys were like so advanced.
Yeah.
Like they could solve a Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds. And they like, I don't know. They're like skipping concepts because they think that you already know this. And I'm like,
I
no,
know what you're saying. Yeah.
I just want to learn it. So I bought this like $9 course from some guy, and he prefaced his video, like the example video was like, I'm just a regular guy. I can't do it that fast, but I can do it. And if you
Yeah.
want to learn how to do it too, buy this course. And I was like, you're my man. That's exactly what I'm looking for. An average dude who can figure this out and teach me the average ways of figuring out a Rubik's Cube. So it's in the
Good
bank.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm real happy about it. I'm trying to tell everybody. I just told thousands of people, and you
Mission
included. So
mission
go.
accomplished. Yeah.
We should get into some science, or we could talk more about Rubik's Cubes. Either one, but let's do the science. So this one's actually really cool. The title of the study is Dietary Supplementation for Attenuating Exercise-Induced Muscle Damage and Delayed Onset Muscle Soreness in Humans. So really cool overall. Really just looking at a lot of the studies that we have looked at and a lot of the supplements in general that we have discussed. And I think that was the coolest part about this study for me. Just so everybody knows, it was done end of last year, so end of 2021. This is pretty new. So it had all the heavy hitters we've talked about in the podcast before: curcumin, tart cherry or tart cherry juice, beetroot juice, quercetin, and isothiocyanate are all the ones. So struggle with a few of those there, but some of them aren't that important. We'll talk about that. But I really want to read the abstract. So this study, how it was done, again, it wasn't like another like other studies that we cover where it's like 15 people went through this and blah, blah, blah. Again, more study of studies. I like doing these because they're just more concrete. You can really take more information from them. And so I want to urge anyone listening who's thinking about taking any of these supplements to check out our show notes and go look at this study, because you could unpack this study for weeks and not even get into it. Like if you clicked all the additional studies and everything, you could pull so much out of this. So we'll talk about some of it, but obviously we can't cover every single nuance here. But here's the abstract. It says dietary supplements are widely used as a nutritional strategy to improve and maintain performance and achieve faster recovery in sports and exercise. Exercise-induced muscle damage is caused by mechanical stress and subsequent inflammatory responses, including reactive oxygen species and cytokine production. Therefore, dietary supplements with anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties have the potential to prevent and reduce muscle damage and symptoms characterized by loss of muscle strength and delayed onset muscle soreness, DOMS. However, only a few supplements are considered to be effective at present. This review focuses on the effects of dietary supplements derived from phytochemicals and listed in the International Olympic Committee consensus statement on muscle damage evaluated by blood myofiber damage markers, muscle soreness, performance, and inflammatory and oxidative stress markers. So I'll end it right there just to kind of give everyone the idea about supplements in general, because this is what most recovery supplements are looking to do. They are looking to reduce inflammation or improve blood flow, reduce oxidative stress. That's what we were looking at. And over the years, we've covered a lot of supplements that are effective and not effective. I kind of mentioned the ones that we're going to cover here, and I'll piece out like which kind of my takeaways for each one. But It was a massive study, Trampus. Thanks for diving into it. But what were your overall thoughts of the study or any particular supplement?
So, kind of going into it, it sort of reaffirmed almost everything I believed about uh, supplements. But
Yeah,
you can literally prove anything right or wrong, and you just look at the data because I mean they had what at least 4 studies per supplement they were looking at, and
if
like
not more. Yeah.
every single one of them, uh, I mean, a lot of them had the same results, but so many of them were looking at like a different either exercise or blood marker or something to prove or disprove their hypothesis, I guess. But like almost all of them were different.
Yeah. And even I
and
think every line started with, and to summarize the supplement, like after conflicting reports, because
right,
there'd be a study that says it can, there'd be a study that says it can't, so on and so forth.
but specifically about the study, like it looked like if you're going after DOMS, which or, delayed onset muscle soreness, if that's what you're going after, beetroot juice seemed to be one of the best ones because it had a, like uh it had a positive effect on just about each one under DOMS for each study. But even like there was a couple studies where it didn't do anything for the people in the study. So I thought, overall, if you're trying to pick a clear cut winner, this would be very tough to look at this and think, well, this one shined over this one because they were all successful in at least one or two of the areas that they were looking at in the study. So
And I think that's what needs to be unpacked, and why I would like want a listener. Well, one, all these are relatively low financial cost, but also
mhm,
low cost as in, what's the downside to me
yeah,
taking it?
sure,
And there's not a lot. If we were like, hey, you should take some like low dose arsenic, because it might be able to make you lift more. It's like, well, I don't know if that's going to be worth it overall, right? Because there's this potential downside. But like taking tart cherry or tart cherry juice or beetroot juice or curcumin, these are not like high like cost to your health, like
right,
fat loss supplements or
sure,
testosterone boosters and all these other things. So that's a good thing to know. And yeah, the reason I think a listener should jump in here is because they would even break out like, hey, beetroot juice. I can't remember if it was beetroot or tart cherry. One of them specifically was like, it seems to be less effective for like high level athletes, but more effective for your average everyday athlete. That that,
yeah,
and that's putting in my words, obviously, but and that makes a lot of sense because if a high level athlete has like the ability to recover and they've like built all the proper energy systems and they're already doing a lot for their recovery, then that makes sense. And so that's why I think athletes themselves should go look at this study and pick it out. But what I kind of landed on the same conclusion as you. Look like beetroot juice is pretty solid. But also, if you look at all the details of it, it looks like it's the best for performance, is
yeah,
what they're pushing it towards. So, like, they were like, it's pretty good on specifically like EIMD, DOMS, so muscle damage, delayed onset muscle soreness. They're like, yeah, cool, whatever, conflicting, but it wasn't as conflicting in the actual performance. So it seemed fairly conclusive that beetroot juice can improve your performance, which is what, in my opinion, why most people take it.
sure,
Beetroot juice. That's something I've always thought in my head as a, it's nitric oxide. It's like a
hmm
pre workout type thing. I never really thought as beetroot juice as much as a recovery thing. Tart cherry, though, on the other hand, absolutely, I've always thought of that as a recovery thing, and that one seemed decent. Again, like a little bit conflicting, but still good. And then curcumin was the final one that I will kind of mention. They mentioned that it's effective. They say that you probably need to take it at least 2 days prior to exercise to reduce the inflammatory responses, regardless of the type of exercise. So I thought that was interesting. And I also think something like curcumin is something that you just have to be taking on a regular basis. And I think that's true of all of these supplements.
right,
So I think beetroot juice you could take just as a pre workout. like take it and then go perform better. But all these other ones, when we were talking about reducing inflammation, antioxidants, those kind of things, I really feel like they need to be taken on a daily basis, or at least a couple times per week to see any sort of benefit. It's the
Yeah,
same with
build it
something
up. Yeah.
like creatine. Like if you take creatine once a month or before random workout, it's not going to do much for you. You need to be taking it a couple times a week or even every day to get the real benefits of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see.
So
And you got something else?
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like if you really dive into this, another takeaway that they didn't really say was it really sounds like if you eat your vegetables, you might be really squared away too. Because they're talking about like phytochemicals and like they would talk about how like, oh, well, this like similar compounds to what's in broccoli. And like they mention things like that in the study. And I'm like, all right, so if we go back to like, and I'm not trying to like, this is not a direct shot at Ryan Caswell. Okay. Just like if you eat your vegetables, you will recover better and it's okay, but you can also just take some of these supplements and be okay.
Jerred doesn't want to call that a direct shot, but Ryan Caswell.
I didn't mention anybody by
I
name.
didn't say it. I didn't say it. But
oh wait,
just count it. Just count it as a direct shot from me.
But the reason I'm not going into isothiocyanate and quercetin am I saying that right?
I don't know.
Yeah, the reason I'm not going into those as much is because they just didn't seem as like as proven or whatever. Like isothiocyanate is more of like a compound that's in other things, even in some of the other things that are mentioned. But I think it needs more research. And same with quercetin, because that actually has some promise to it. I've actually seen it recommended as anti-inflammatory for like other issues as well. But when we're getting into the sports performance world, I don't know if it matters that much. So I think you're good to go with still taking tart cherry juice. We've mentioned that before. Beetroot juice pre-workout, and then curcumin. It needs to be combined with berberine, I think, or something.
I don't remember.
Yeah, like it
pepper
makes it more
something?
bioavailable, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and so that's my only caveat to what you just said is they even talk about the bioavailability and the source of your supplement, and I guess kind of we'll be dipping in the topic later, but like I'm like I get that these things are probably good for you. I am so tired of supplement company stuff.
oh yeah,
Just because
dude.
they're so good at marketing. Like they are so good. I mean, even like the good ones, the quote unquote good ones, like on it, they probably do everything they can to make them, like the best sources and whatnot. But they're just a very good marketing company too. Like they know what sells and they know how to sell it. And like even like back in the day, I listened to Ben Greenfield a lot. I used to listen to his podcast a lot, and he was always taking some new supplement. He's like a biohacker or whatever. That's sort of his chick. That's what he does.
Now he owns
Really
a
fit
supplement
guy.
company.
And now he's got a supplement company. And he had some quote, I think it was on Instagram, and it was like, your body can't keep up, and I'm paraphrasing, but your body can't keep up with the poison laden nutrients that you have available to you. And if you're an athlete, you need even more of these nutrients, and all to say by my quote my my supplement line. You see these guys, and I'm sure he's taking his own stuff, but at the same time it's Ben Greenfield. Like his life is health and fitness. That's literally what he does. So is he
Yeah, I don't.
is it true, or is he just a good marketer like everybody else?
Well, a few things. So, in this, this is partly like segue into the topic maybe, but
Yeah.
we actually thought about creating a supplement Garage Gym Athlete. This was back 2017, 2018. It was going to be a recovery supplement. And I was actually really interested in it. And I know I've talked about this on the podcast, but it's probably been a while. We couldn't get the dosage amounts when we were working with a company to like formulate like 001. It's just like send me a test bag of what we'd be doing. And then you get into flavors and all this other stuff. And I was looking at the research, and it had a lot of these things in it because these are the most proven things. So we were trying to put curcumin in there. You can get tart cherry powder, these kind of things. And I was just pulling it straight from the research, like how many grams of each thing are necessary to like be enough. And when we got to it, they're like, oh yeah, your cost per bag is like $126. And so you're going to have to sell it for like, 180 or whatever to like make profit after shipping and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. People aren't going to
Yeah.
buy $180 like bag of recovery supplements because every competitor out there is going to be like, ours is a third of the cost or a tenth of
Right.
the cost or whatever. But it's because what they call it in the industry is just pixie dusting, right? What they do is they sprinkle a little tart cherry in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's in no way enough for your body to benefit from any of the research. But now they're able to put their hand on the scientific research and say it's backed by science, but that's only in theory or idea,
Yeah.
not in reality of dosage. And that's what really starts to bother me because even the quote unquote good ones, I don't even know. You mentioned that. I was like, I don't even know what that is anymore because I just don't know. Like, what are
Yeah.
you like? What makes a good company? Um, and I also mentioned this. There was like this YouTuber who has a supplement company, and he went through the process of like, here's how our supplements are made, and they start with, and everyone thought it was an awesome video, and it was. It's cool that he did it, but it started with a pallet of powder in a brown sack that was delivered, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I've
then
seen
after the
this.
fact, it goes through this entire process and like whatever. But I'm like, no, no, no. Where did the brown sack of powder come from? Like, did you
Exactly.
get that from China? Like, where? And so it's just like, even though it goes through this extensive process after the fact, it doesn't mean that powder's awesome or like what they didn't grow it in their like proprietary field. That'd be cool. Like if you could like take it all the way from growing the plant to making the supplement, but that's not what these companies are doing. They're trying to add the best personal branding and marketing to the most affordable supplement possible. And then they'll do something stupid like, and I think this is really stupid for anybody who falls for it. When they have like a like tested for banned substance thing for sport, that's like the biggest marketing ploy like on the planet because all they're testing for is basically illegal compounds that you can't have if you're a competitor in any sort of professional sport.
Right.
That does not mean there aren't horrible things in there for you
Yeah.
that you like that the International Olympic Committee could care less about.
Yeah.
They don't like, oh, you want to damage your kidneys and liver. We don't care. But any sort of, performance enhancement,
Yeah.
now we care. So if you're ever like, oh, no, it's tested for banned substances, it's like, yeah, good thing they didn't accidentally put some anabolic steroids in there. But maybe we should talk about some of the other compounds that are like detrimental to your health that are still in there. So that's not like a seal of approval either. And a lot of people, I think, fall for that.
Yeah, I agree. So, like I said, I'm just sort of tired of them. Almost altogether. And we're like you said, it'll segue into our topic. But I'm
Hey, quick break here. As you know, we will not accept sponsors on this podcast. We want to keep it content focused and just deliver the best we can to you. So, if you think this podcast is worth listening to, can you do me a favor and share it with one friend? I don't care how you share it. You can text it to a friend, Instagram, DM, email, or even snail mail, but I can't reimburse you for that stamp. Look, the best way for a podcast to continue to grow is word of mouth. So if you can share this episode with at least one person, I would be forever grateful. All right, back to the show. You're right, man. Good segue. So let's get into it. We're talking about what supplements we're currently taking and wasting our money on. So let's dive into it. What are you taking? What do you trust? What do you invest in? Whatever you want to call it. Where are you at with
yeah.
supplements right now?
So I kind of got it broken into two categories. Like today, I took a vitamin D drop, and
There you go.
and
Going off the
and
rails
some
here.
and some greens. Like that's really all I'm taking at the moment.
What's your green? No sponsor here, but we can mention
No,
some brands. What's your green go
I
to?
like I like athletic greens,
Okay.
but I'm also use amazing greens. I think it's
Okay.
they're off. I got it from Amazon, but they seem like a decent one. But like you said, they all look like they could be decent. They
Well,
say
yeah,
the
it's
right words.
like Jocko has a pretty like
Yeah.
big supplement company now,
Yep.
and Jocko's awesome.
Yeah.
Do I think Jocko
So
supplements are awesome? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah, like
I don't know.
I just the supplement industry is kind of scary. I don't where his powder's
If
coming from too.
I feel like looking at Jocko's stuff, if what he says is true, because I mean I've followed him for a while. He tries to source everything from the United States, which doesn't mean that it's healthy or good for you, but at least he's not buying stuff from China. He does everything he can, or at least he says that he does everything he can to get it to the United States. And if you look at the ingredients, they generally look okay. Like you can say all the words, and um, he uses
You know,
what appears to be the healthiest that you can. But
then
go ahead.
eventually profit. And I hope that that's true. I mean, I'm not also not throwing shade on Jocko supplements. I don't know. I'm just like, how much can we, because it's Jocko, are we automatically going to throw our trust there if you're a Jocko fan? Because, um, this American made idea, I think it's so interesting. I'm all about that. I think it's great as an
Hmm.
American. Like, cool,
Hmm.
let's do that. But every company that's taken that stance eventually gives up. So Rogue Fitness, American made.
Yeah.
Now they
Yeah.
very clearly delineate on every single product made in America, and it will just say yes or no. And if it says no, they don't tell you where it's made. They're just like, no, not made in America. And we're like, okay, another company, GoRuck, the one who makes their GR1, their main backpack, no longer made in America. I forgot where they had to ship it out to, but it was like Ecuador, or Philippines, or something like that. So they're now lost as well. And now, yeah, Jocko, he probably tries as much as he can, but once profit margins get eaten up too much, we're getting it from Korea or China or wherever, So it's unfortunate that that's the case.
Right. But just back to supplements. So I've currently, like today, I took vitamin D and some greens. It's not uncommon though. Protein. I've been doing this little experiment where I've been trying to get it all from like just meat, and
Yeah,
I'll even eat dairy. I'm not that scared of dairy. So
I
I've tried
love
to get.
dairy.
I know.
Dairy doesn't love
uh,
me.
no, no. I try to get protein from just all food for the last few months, and I've seemed to be able to do it. It takes more planning than because that the protein shake's just such an easy go to, and I mean you can stack grains and proteins and all this stuff in a shake and knock a lot of it out all at one time too. So there's a lot of convenience, but then protein, creatine. I've done beetroot juice and tart cherry. I'll just have that concentrate and just take a.
So is that all you're doing right now, or just things you have taken?
No, things I've taken in the past and probably
Yeah.
will do in the future. Like it's nothing I've sworn off. But really like lately it's been vitamin D and just making sure that my greens are taken care of.
Yeah, we're just getting wild. I got the Metamucil. Now, gotta get my fiber. Yeah, so it's gonna be boring because it's almost the exact same. So yeah, today I do take a probiotic supplement, even though that's in the athletic greens. I take what's it called? It's called Seed. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but
Mm-mm.
it's like got really popular. I kind of looked into it a lot more, and then I had uh, I have a functional medicine doc that I see. She recommended that I take it um, because I was having some gut issues, i.e., why I can't eat dairy. And so she was like, "Well, let's fix that." And it's been a few months. I mean, it's been like 2 or 3 months, and those probiotics have honestly helped my gut more than anything else that I've taken. And again, not a sponsor. You can go check it out if you want. We get no kickback for here's my link /Jerred or whatever. So just you can go check out Seed Probiotics. I have enjoyed those. They've been pretty effective. I do take athletic greens in the morning and vitamin D. So those are like health related. I take in the morning. And I do take a protein supplement right now. Not every day, but right now for like I'm normally finishing a workout and then going to a practice, and that all kicked back up like a month ago. And
Yeah.
so I added like a post workout shake back to my life. That's Huel. I'm taking Huel there. It's like a 400 calorie, 40 gram of protein thing, which is awesome because it's a lot of protein, but it's plant-based protein. So you normally need a little bit more protein for your body to still use it. Let's see. I think that's about it right now. And I have taken every single other one of these things. So when I do like a beetroot supplement. I'll take that sometimes if I just feel like it. I have done a lot of tart cherry, but I don't do it all the time. And I supplemented with curcumin or turmeric for a very long time. And I think it's really good for you. I've been off of the big like shakes where like I had a bunch of blueberries and greens and all that other stuff. I've been taking those for a while. I just kind of, I don't know. You do something for like 7 years, you eventually get burnt out on or whatever. So I think that's about it supplement wise. And then creatine, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I don't take it very much, but and the main reason I don't take it, I am what I have deemed as a hyper responder to creatine. I will honestly gain 15 pounds. Where, like, if you want to gain some muscle and that sounds awesome to you, then maybe try it. Maybe you'll be a hyper responder too. But I take creatine consistently for 3 months, I will honestly be 15 pounds bigger and heavier. And it's not like fatter, right? It's like it's water weight and whatever. I'm so much stronger and more powerful. It's an awesome supplement to me, like borderline probably what steroids feels like, but I just don't want to do that all the time. It doesn't make any sense. Like I don't need any of that, you know?
When we kicked off 300 this year, I started with, I was taking protein too, but then I started with creatine, and I was very, very strict about taking that with my shake for about 3 months, and I gained 20 pounds so
Yeah,
fast, which
exactly.
my diet, I wouldn't say it was very unclean, but I wasn't being like super, super strict with my diet either. I mean, it was, I was eating pretty good and I was tracking my macros too, um, but I think I would put myself in a responder. So what do you call it? A super responder or
Hyper
whatever?
responder.
A hyper
Yeah.
responder category for creatine as well. It did not take me long to gain 20 pounds.
And one thing there's been research on the loading phase versus not loading phase.
We're
And
taking it.
you can load. It doesn't seem to be necessary. But it also doesn't seem to be completely ineffective. You know what I mean? So you don't need to do the loading phase. I don't think that people do. The only people who really ever say that own a supplement company that sells creatine. That's just like, I don't know if that's connected or not, but it's just generally the case. And I also, you're supposed to take 5 grams a day. I also think that you could get away with taking 5 grams every other day or every 3 days if you didn't want to take too much. And
Yeah.
this would be more for somebody who maybe you don't consume a lot of meat, or so either you're a vegan, vegetarian, or you just don't eat a lot of meat for some reason. Like maybe it just doesn't, like I've had that happen to me before where like I didn't eat as much meat as I wanted to, and or whatever, good enough protein. So you're missing out on the creatine when you do that. And it can kind of be a good replacement because there are a lot of research has been done on creatine. It's safe, it's effective for performance, but there are also a lot of studies coming out on its mental performance as well, helping
Mm.
your brain. So
Right.
there are even connections with like Alzheimer's and everything like that. So I think creatine's a pretty good one to take. I just don't take it primarily from the bigger, stronger, faster version of me that I don't want to be for some reason. But really, it's just like, damn, you're like 205 pounds. It's not how big I want to be right now. It's like I have to get like new clothes at that point. So I'm just not interested in walking around like that at all times. So yeah, I think that's about it.
I'd love to be 205 pounds. Different story.
Yeah, I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole.
No, we don't have to. The only other thing that hangs me up with taking a lot of different, because I mean, you can look at, and I know this isn't most of the athletes listen to this, but you can look at bodybuilding.com and get like a laundry list of all these things that you should be taking, or just following somebody that's telling you need to be taking, you need to be taking vitamin D and B and A, and, you need to be taking these things, but unless you've actually like done blood work, you don't really know what you're actually deficient in, and you could just be just pissing out most of
Yeah.
this. Even if you're able to find like a very reputable company that agrees with you, and you know that you're actually absorbing the vitamins, you don't, unless you've done blood work, you don't actually know whether you need it. And I honestly, I haven't done it yet. So I look at these things and I just think, should I be taking like some sort of decent multivitamin? I mean, probably, but how do I actually know that I need it? How do I really know that without testing something?
And I think you bring up a good point. I think blood work is absolutely necessary because anytime I'm going to take a supplement, I'm going to ask myself, why are you taking it? Like, what do you plan to get out of this? And I don't need my performance. I'm pretty happy with my standard non-supplemented performance. And so unless I was going to start competing in something, I don't need to take beetroot juice before my workout to increase my performance, right? It would be helpful. The science says it would probably be helpful, but for me, I'm like, what's the difference here? But I do think blood work is really helpful. One thing that popped up for me, I was taking, it was like a fruit supplement, kind of like the opposite of like a green supplement, right? Um, and it had a lot of vitamin B6 in it. And so I had my blood work done, and my doctor was like, your B6 levels are really high. And I was like, does that matter? She's like, yes, it matters. She's like, if you have too much B6, you can get like neuropathy, like nerve problems, and it is irreversible. And she's like, you're not there yet, but if you were to continue down this path, you would probably get there. Where was I getting? I went home and looked at that as soon as I got home from the doctor's office. Stupid amount of vitamin B6 in there. And I was
Yeah,
like, well, okay, well, I'm going to stop taking that right now. Had my blood work done again. Everything's fine.
it's
So
crazy.
you got to look out for things like that. I didn't even know it. Like I would have started to have like finger tingles and like all these other things, like, oh, this is weird. Like, why am I? It's like, oh, you're taking way too much vitamin B6 all the time. So, like, if it was B12, it doesn't matter. You're just like pee it out. Your body's really good at getting rid of it. But B6 is
Sure.
one of those it's necessarily not the case, I guess. So you got to look at those things. But then even with blood markers, it gets more nuanced because I'm sure you've heard like every health guru on the planet's like the whole world is deficient in magnesium.
Yeah,
Yeah, you hear that all the time. And sure, maybe it's true. Our soils are depleted, whatever. But then I check with my doctor, my magnesium levels are perfect. And then it's like, I read some article and it's like, well, a blood test doesn't mean you aren't deficient in magnesium. There's still like other things that are basically untestable and you could still be deficient. And I'm like, well, what is it? Like, how do I know? Am I just supposed to be like, hey, the soil is not good enough, so I'm just going to take magnesium? Like, is that
yeah.
what I'm supposed to do? So,
How do they know if it's untestable that we are all deficient in
right. And I'm
magnesium?
like, then you click around on their website, you find out they're selling magnesium.
Yeah.
That's that's generally how it works. And then so I did take a bunch of magnesium. This was earlier this year, and it had a loading protocol on it, like creatine. And I was like, whatever, I'll do your loading protocol. And maybe this is too much information to share, but I had the worst diarrhea for like 3 days because that's what magnesium. One of the side effects of magnesium too much. So to me, that actually told me I was like, I don't think I'm deficient in magnesium. I just don't. My body is trying to shed this as quickly as it can.
Sure,
And
sure.
so I came off the magnesium. Everything went back to normal. Just yeah. You gotta know why you're taking something and see if there's any real benefit and tailored to you, individualized.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. Well, I think that's all on supplements. Just have a good reason for taking them. You heard what we're taking and kind of the science on, curcumin, tart cherry juice, beetroot juice. And you know what? I'm really glad that we've talked about those and kind of given them the stamp of approval on the podcast before. And this new study came out and was like, yeah, we're still good
Yeah.
with it. Like you
Yeah.
can still take them. So that's good. We don't have to like redact any comments, but we absolutely would be like, we're wrong. Don't take this one anymore. Unlike the carnivore people who just started eating fruit and fermented dairy and everything and just like try to like fly under the radar. Like meat wasn't the only thing they're supposed to eat, but we will change our minds if we have to. But yeah, let's get to the Meet Yourself Saturday workout. What do we have, Trampus?
It is the Confused 2K. And the first note is do not lock your knees. Do not lock out your knees on the Confused 2K, but I'll get into the actual workout. 10 rounds for time of a 200-meter row or run, and then a front rack barbell hold for the duration of that 200-meter time. And you're to complete 10 sets of that.
Got it.
It's not too complicated here. Competitor equals body weight. Well, a lot of times these ranges are complicated. Competitor, just do your body weight. Established 65 to 70% of your body weight, and recruit 45 to 65% of your body weight. I remember doing this one when it first came out, and it was a fun one.
I
It's
love
a good
these.
partner. It's a good partner workout too, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a famous one with me and Ashley. But I love these workouts because it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't go hard on the 200, you're just increasing the amount of time under the bar, which sucks.
Yes.
And then if you go really fast to decrease that amount, you're going to be super winded by the time you get to the bar. Just
really
absolutely love these kind of workouts. They're just
really hard to catch your breath in a front rack hold.
Right. They're just awesome. And so I don't know. Any thoughts on like gaming it? Which one would you rather do? Would you rather go super fast on the 200 to try and mitigate how much time you have to spend at the bar, or go the other way around, or what?
I think if I was to lean one way, it would probably be to go super fast just to get the workout over with sooner. But I feel like when I did it, I don't want to say I gamed it, but because I don't know that you can, because like you said, either way in either direction, it's a different stimulus that you're exploiting. But I think I was just like a very moderate pace, honestly, when I did it, and I realized
split the difference, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I realized it's like you're gonna absolutely trash yourself if you go as hard as you can on these 200-meter rows, but then your back is probably gonna hurt for about 3 weeks if you if you don't. So, um, no, I don't. I think if I was to go one way, it would be to go faster. But and actually, speaking of, just
go faster.
Well,
good thing we're getting into what I was gonna say. No, So here's how I would actually game it or do it. And I'll probably do this one. So what I will do, let's just say that. So I would prefer to do this one rowing. It says you can row or run. And it is a 2,000 meter row. So let's look at the workout now as a 2,000 meter row, which is a crappy workout, 2,000 meter row.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take whatever my 2,000 meter row time is, let's just say 7 flat, something like that. And then I would calculate that down to the intervals. So I would try and keep my 2,000 meter pace. So if that was a 140 or a 145 per 500 meter, I would keep that pace for each 200. So I'm keeping a hard pace for 2,000 meter, but should be an easier pace for 200 in theory. And then you're going to go and step to a bar. So that's the pacing I would be looking for on the rower with something like this, because it should be just crappy enough, but doable to maintain.
And see, that's what I think. That's probably about I don't remember that specifically what I did, but that's a moderate pace, like a 2,000 meter pace for a 200-meter row. That's going to be moderate. Really.
But it's a max effort 2,000 meter row, so it still kind of sucks.
Yeah, but well, for me,
I get what you're saying. 200 meter pace, max.
I can't go into a max. I can't go into a max effort 2,000 meter and pull as hard as I can each time. So.
That's what I feel the 2,000 meter row test is. Like every time I do it, I get seriously like 45 seconds into it, and I'm like, there's absolutely no way I can keep this pace. And somehow I force myself to until like minute 6. And then the last minute, I'm just absolutely dead and might not even be able to move very well anymore. But
the last minute's awful.
Yeah. You've run out of all glycogen and you're just trying to survive.
That's why the workout that I skip every time, it's not even really a workout. The exercise I skip every time during fit week is the
Oh,
2,000 meter row.
dude, I test it like once a year, and that one time I'm going to test it, I'm really looking for an excuse to not. I'm like, what? Is the mile and a half run good enough, or like, can we just call it good on the EO3 5K? Yeah, it's a bad one. I have been rowing a lot more lately. Yeah, kind of. My hamstring was feeling weird on runs, so I was like, well, gonna.
I'll have to ask the doctor on Monday if I can do this. Probably not.
Yeah, just shoot him a screenshot, maybe.
Just say no.
And well, you really should be asking Dr. Morrissey.
See, Morrissey is not my doctor though, so he can't really give me that sort of.
So when you need a note from him, it's okay. But when he might push you to do some workouts you don't want to do, it's no longer okay. I get how this works.
Well, the other thing is, and she doesn't listen, so it's okay. I've been sort of milking this, obviously around the house.
Even if she did listen, she's not making it this far into the podcast. So you're good.
I've been sort of milking this around the house. If I just bust out, a really hard workout a week and a half after surgery, probably not going to be a good scenario for me.
Well, you want to hear a funny story about when I did have my surgery post flying? Yep. So similar surgery, they ripped, you got to cut through the abdomen and all that other stuff. So I had that surgery. Emily's friend was getting married, and I kind of knew the guy, and just kind of knew him. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to be a groomsman?" And I was like, we weren't like friends, but he asked because my wife was a bridesmaid and he thought that we should both be in the wedding. And I was like, okay, yeah, like whatever, I'll do it. That's fine. And then, you commit to those things way in advance. And then I had the Air Force thing, the flying thing happened, surgery. And then I got out of surgery on like Friday and the wedding was on Saturday. And they're like, well, can you still be in the wedding? And I was like, I don't know. We'll see. And so I ultimately was like, yeah, I think I'll be fine. I think I'll be fine. And I remember the memories I have after surgery are just me coming in and out of consciousness, but all the way up until like Emily threw me in a car and we had to drive a couple hours from where I was stationed to this wedding. And I just was like leaned back, like asleep. I'd like wake up, like whatever. And then the next day is the wedding. And it was kind of like an earlier in the day wedding. And I remember I was standing there. I had my tux on. I didn't participate in any of the other activities. I was just like in the wedding. I didn't even go to the reception. I like went home right after. But never in my life have I stood in one spot and only focused on don't fall down, don't pass out, don't fall down. Because I was in so much pain and not recovered. And under no circumstances should I have been in that wedding or standing there. But I was just like, I was just completely convinced. I was like, I'm going to fall over here. Like I'm going to ruin their entire wedding because I just had surgery yesterday and I shouldn't even be here. And
that's wild.
That was, so I milked it.
Too. Yeah. You definitely should. 100%.
So what else have you gotten from milking it? You like getting free meals out of this thing? No, you don't have to take out the trash anymore because that's over 5 pounds.
I can't take the trash in. We were sitting on the we got our groceries. We got our groceries delivered, and the groceries were there. And I was like, "Hey, the groceries are here."
You grab like a banana. You're like, "Yeah."
I kid. I actually feel like a useless human being right now because it's kind of demoralizing almost.
When you just stare at your wife doing things that you should be doing.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I would tell another story. Oh, why not? That's like the one time. This is in the Better Humanology podcast. We were doing experiments. That was a big premise of the beginning of that podcast. But
I remember that was fun.
It was hard to keep up with. And then we wanted to see what alcohol. This was like before Whoop and Garmin and all that were like heart rate variability and all this crap. We want to see what beer did to resting heart rate. And see if it affected it. Now we know that's just like absolutely, it's going to smooth your resting heart rate, lower your HRV. But science hadn't answered these questions, 10 years ago, however long it's been. And so I remember I told them I took these experiments very seriously. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to like drink these beers and just sit here because I can't have anything else mess with my heart rate. And I can't remember what it was, but it was something like that. We like help get the groceries out of the car. And I was like, I can't.
You can't.
And my excuse was I'm drinking beer on the couch. When you really
That's
just like,
terrible.
when you lay it out, I'm like, I can in a minute, but not right now. I'm in the middle of an experiment.
That's not exactly the same, but it is a good story.
Yeah. Well, it's also hilarious because we basically made no money at that time. So I couldn't even argue that it was like for my job, right? It was just like, oh yeah, you're a hobby. Like your hobby has you drinking beers on the couch and you can't help get groceries in. So that's probably the worst I've ever been as a husband.
No, it's not good.
Well, all right. I guess we can get out of here. All right, Garage Gym athletes. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you really like the Trampus Jerred show, then rock on. You know what I'm saying? Let us know what you like, what you don't like about the podcast when it's just two of us. But for all of our athletes out there who are still listening, thank you so much. Thanks for, being committed in the training, doing the daily over decades, everything that you guys are doing. Awesome, being awesome in the community and getting the training in. If anyone is listening who has made it this far into the podcast and for some reason,
congratulations.
Yeah, you are not a part of our training. You are doing something wrong, or we are. Either way, you can fix the problem by going to garagegymathlete.com and signing up for a 14-day free trial. We would love to have you, but that's it for this week. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. To the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.